You see, we got 18 new patients yesterday.
Crushed it. It's a beautiful thing.
Hell yeah.
Beautiful thing.
6 in Fort Washington alone that showed up.
Beautiful. All right, we have some attendees rolling in. Dr. Skolma, look who that is. Dr. Skolma's in the house. Dr. Gregory, got a bunch of our app
Dr.
customers.
Skolma, you gotta send us an update on how those marketing campaigns are going for
Dr.
you.
Latronica is in the house. Look at that, Dr. Bates. Very cool, very cool. Super excited. So guys, we'll get started at about 1:30 on the dot because we got a full agenda for today. Okay, we are recording too, which is good.
Dr. Bates is saying hello.
Hello, hello, Dr. Bates. Good to see ya, even though I can't really see ya. All right, it's 1:30. So guys, we have, again, a very, very busy schedule today. We've got a lot to talk about, so I am gonna get started. And for anybody who comes in late, they can see what's happening by watching the replay. Okay, so wanna make sure that I have control, Lucas, yes?
You do?
There we go. So our agenda today, we're going to talk about 3 major categories of branding and digital strategies for marketing and new patient acquisition. The first one is going to be metrics that matter. The second one is going to be micro-influencers, how we use micro-influencers to get the best return on our marketing and advertising spend. And then we're going to get into some pretty big detail, some pretty gritty detail around calculating return on investment. And these things are definitely near and dear to my heart. But first of all, I just want to give everybody a quick recap in case you haven't been able to make all of our courses. These are all the courses that we have recorded and that are available to you. It is really important that you go back, and if you haven't seen some of these, each one of these webinars that we do builds on the next, so make sure that you go back and you review them. So our first masterclass was all around, kind of defining what digital marketing is, what it looks like in 2020, how do we engage patients in digital marketing strategies, and really just starting to understand the importance of brand awareness. We also created a growth guide, so that contains 3 areas of focus with 4 to 5 sections, each with tips and action steps to grow your practice. So if you haven't downloaded the growth guide, really important that you do so. The second masterclass was all about branding. So branding and chiropractic, like what is your practice's brand? And guys, you can do a lot of stuff, right? You can do a lot of tactical stuff related to digital marketing strategies, but if you haven't really thought about and defined your brand, you're not going to get the same return on investment. And we're talking about ROI today a lot. You really do have to understand what your brand is, how it's being portrayed to your patients and what their perception is of your brand, but also how it's being portrayed to your community and how you align your brand with your community to drive more new patients into the practice. Again, we created a free branding guide. If you've not downloaded that, please do. It's a 3-part worksheet to help you identify and leverage your brand. The third masterclass is all about digital readiness, understanding the patient acquisition tools that exist, how you actually engage with your community, and again, we created a digital readiness score sheet. So that would allow you to take basically an assessment and find out where your practice ranks for growth in 2020. And there's always opportunities for improvement. So whether you rank low, rank medium, rank high, there's areas of opportunity for all of us where we can improve our digital readiness, improve our brand awareness, and ultimately improve new patient results and therefore clinical impact. And then the last masterclass is all about a growth roadmap. We did content creation flow, and we also talked about process implementation. Now, again, process implementation is really important. You can have lots of great ideas, but if you don't have a process to implement, then it makes it much more difficult to get results. We went through every single one of these components of building out a process to ensure that you could implement a digital marketing strategy, content planning. We even demonstrated a content calendar for you, how you create content, the delivery, what kind of content goes on which channels, engagement and lead creation. So once you're engaged with your audience, how do you then turn them and manage those leads? And then ultimately, how do you take those leads, manage them, and turn them into new patients? So again, all these videos are available for rewatching. Now, today's masterclass is going to be everything that you need to know about return on investment. So I'm going to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is metrics that matter. You know, if you don't measure it, you can't improve it. So it's all about making sure that we understand, excuse me, key metrics that matter. Second component is going to be, how do we leverage micro-influencers in order to generate the best return on investment? And then lastly, how do we actually calculate ROI? And Lucas is going to kind of lead that discussion. I'll have a few points that I want to make, but we're going to get into great detail around how we do that. I also want to give a quick shout out to a good buddy of mine. Some of you on this webinar may know Matt, but Dr. Matt Loop is a chiropractor. And what's really funny is Lucas found this article. I actually interviewed Matt for, I don't know if that was like the ACA Journal or Dynamic Chiropractic. It wasn't Dynamic Chiropractic. It might have been Chiro Eco or the American Chiropractor. I can't remember, but that's me right down there. And I interviewed Matt because he was starting to really, you know, put himself at the forefront of helping chiropractors, you know, understand social media. And that was way back in 2015. So that was 5 years ago. And Matt and I have become very good friends since then. He's a coach, he's a mentor. And I wanted to just make you guys aware of some things that he's doing. He's hosting a social media summit. Now, this dude has got it going on. He's got a best-selling book, How Social Media Made Me Rich. It's a great book. I have it. He's spoken at NASDAQ. We've spoken on the circuit together many, many times. I've heard him speak. He always delivers amazing content. And we're able to share business ideas that really help the profession grow. He's got a social media summit coming up. If you check out this link, dcincome.com/blog/social media revenue summit, it'll take you to his website. He's got all kinds of cool videos that talk about like testimonials and people that have been through his course. I'm actually going to a special event down in the Bahamas. So there's another event that Matt runs in the Bahamas. And if anybody's interested in that, please let me know. It's happening in October. Shoot me an email and I will make that link available to you as well. This one's a little easier to get to, and it's in Atlanta. And so if you want to check it out, check out that link. Okay. So right now I want to talk about metrics that matter. And it, you know, again, if you're not measuring, you know, there's no way to know that you're improving. Now, every single one of you should have SMART goals related to new patient acquisition. So again, SMART goals, most of you know this, but it's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and/or relevant, and time-bound. When you create your goals, all of that needs to be part of the language in the goals. And then, of course, you want to be able to share these goals with your staff. You know, in all the consulting that I do and the teaching that I do with other chiropractors and practices, it's kind of amazing to me that a chiropractor has a goal, it's in their brain, and they don't share it with their team. Like, I don't understand how that's even possible. Like, you have a team of people. A really good leader is one that can engage their team in ways to drive the entire team towards a common goal. So it's critically important that you share these important goals with your team. Now, we have very specific goals. We use a technology platform called Traction Tools. This is our scorecard. So on the left here, you can see all of our KPIs, all of our key metrics. And then, of course, how we've scored. And guys, you know me, I'm very transparent. So green is good, red is bad. This is our company during COVID. There's quite a big amount of red. And that's okay, because we're still making progress. We are still actually improving, even though we were down 80%. Yes, we were down 80%. But anyway, we measure our goals on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis. We have a scorecard. We know how we're performing. And any particular KPI that's not at goal goes on what's called the issues list or the ops list. It's an opportunity problem solving, and we are able to fix those challenges as we see them showing up on our scoreboard. Now, specifically related to a leading metric, that would be different than a lagging metric. And I'm going to explain this in greater detail, but you know, things like new patients and billings are lagging metrics. Those are things that we look at after they've occurred. But what we want is predictive variables that help drive specific results. And Google reviews, and for us, because we have our own private practice app downloads are also leading metrics for us. The more Google reviews we get, the more app downloads we get, the more new patients we bring into the practice. And we've quantified that. So again, the future of performance is really understanding not just the lagging metrics and having goals towards them, but also understanding leading or predictive metrics and having goals for them as well. So obviously, we all want more new patients. We all want to help the world. We do our jobs because we want to help as many people as we can. But the new patient number is a lagging metric. If we have a new patient goal of 30 new patients per month, and we have 25 and it's the last day of the month, well, now what do? Now we're short 5 new patients and it's the last day of the month, and how are we going to get there? But if we have predictive measures that define and can predict what a new patient acquisition target will look like based on the work that we're doing, it's called a leading metric. That's going to help us achieve our new patient goal because we understand the inputs to drive the outputs. So these are examples of just some of the things that we track. Again, these are lagging metrics, but these are our new patient results based on our goals. So to the left here, this big dial is our total new patient goal. And then we break it down by category. How many came in through physicians? How many came through attorneys? And by the way, you can see these goal numbers are different. How many came through digital strategies and our website? How many came through internal referrals? And how many were returning patients? And we look at this data. Lucas and I look at this data every single week. Lucas looks at it every day, but I look at it every single week. And this is really important. Again, these are lagging metrics, but it is important to look at. But what are the predictive variables around this? What are the things that we know drive our results to goal? So for instance, for physicians, we know that if we're sending out narrative reports for all of our new patient exams, re-exams, and final exams, if we do a certain amount of phone calls to our referral sources each week, if we do a certain amount of account visits each week, and if we send a certain amount of referrals out, those are predictive metrics for us that will determine how many referrals we're going to get on average over a period of time. Is it always going to be perfect, guys? No. Some months it's a little bit more, but some months it's a little bit less. But we know if we do about 6 phone calls and 2 visits a week, we're going to drive our new patients towards goal. Attorneys, no different. However, attorneys are different because we know that for attorneys, they just want the referrals. I mean, that's their number one desire. They want more new clients. So for every referral that we drive to an attorney, we can get about 3 returning back, which is a pretty good ratio. We'd like it to be more, but we can get about 3 returning back. So the amount of referrals going out can drive the numbers that we can predict coming in. Again, sending our narratives, phone calls, and visits, not as predictive. It's really referrals for attorneys, but those are still really important inputs that we do on a regular basis in order to consistently achieve goals. Digital marketing strategies. Again, you might think, well, what would be predictive for a digital marketing strategy? How would we make sure that we're getting new patients at goal for all of our digital strategies? Well, believe it or not, Google reviews, #1 strategy. The more reviews we get, and you saw on our scorecard, we set a target for Google reviews every single week. We know that's predictive of driving more new patients into the practice. We have a specific number of social media posts. That's an input. Again, the more that we define the number of organic posts that drive our results, the more predictive we are in generating that result. So we have a specific number of posts that we do every single week. Lucas and his team are responsible for that, and they do a phenomenal job. If you have not checked out our Instagram page or our Facebook page, check it out because you can learn so much from what we're doing. Also, social media spend. Lucas says we need a specific budget for our campaigns that will drive a specific end result. So again, we have this conversation every week. Okay, Lucas, what's the budget this week? Okay, Dr. J, it's X. Great, let's do it. Let's go for it. And then we know that we can generate a certain number of new patients at goal based on that spend. And again, Lucas and I are going to talk about, that return on investment calculation and understanding that to a great degree later in the webinar. Community engagement. So what's happening in terms of our growth of our pages? When we started, I think some of you have heard this, Lucas, how many Instagram followers did we have? Like 115?
Yeah, something like that.
It was like nothing. And now we've got how many?
They're mostly employees.
Or ex-employees, right? And
yeah.
How many do we have now?
8,800, something like that. Almost 10,000.
approaching 9,000. And Lucas is able to go in and look at the amount of engagement that group of people is kind of engaging with our content. And the more engagement there is, the more likely we are to get a new patient from it. And again, Lucas is the master at that. And then lastly, email newsletters. Every single week, we send out a newsletter to our existing list, and we know that's going to generate a very specific number of returning patients. People who have not been in the practice for a while, have a new problem, and they want to come back in. And this was the stimulus. This was the input that stimulated them to be like, hey, you know what? I think I should probably go back in. This is a really great newsletter. I'm going to call up and make a new patient appointment. And there's a very specific number of returning patients that we get every single month based on our email newsletters, which is why, guys, consistency and action is the key. Consistency and action is the key. So with that being said, now I want to turn it over to Lucas, where he's going to talk about driving a greater return on investment with organic digital strategies and acquisition.
Awesome. Good job. So we'll talk a lot about a lot of the things that Dr. J just mentioned when we go into the actual calculation of the ROI. To his point, though, it's all about measuring things that are seemingly subjective or seemingly out of your control or random, such as email open rates and recapture rates, etc. So we'll touch more on that towards the end of the presentation. And if you guys have any questions, I saw someone raise their hand. Just type them in the chat. We have time at the end of the presentation. We'll address all of those in great detail and hopefully have a little bit of a back and forth as well. So driving ROI with organic acquisition, to me, this is very important because the more people I can bring in organically, the more ad budget I can justify at the end of the day when we're having these conversations with Dr. J. Because a lot of times ad strategies are also about increasing your reach, and the actual conversion comes organically. So like I just said, the greatest ROI comes from organic patient acquisition. And we have pretty much 3 strategies that we use consistently, I mean, daily pretty much, that drive this organic growth. So the first one are micro-influencers, which we'll spend a great amount of time talking here. And the recap that Dr. J kind of went over at the very beginning, make sure you go back and look at those presentations, because just about each one of those, we're talking about the importance of having influencers and micro-influencers pushing your brand forward. It's probably one of the most underutilized but most impactful ways to create a brand and to grow a brand today, whether you're a chiropractor or a veterinarian or whatever it may be. The second thing is giveaways, and the third thing is live streams, which I'm sure you guys hear a lot about. We're going to talk about some ways to keep that interesting and exciting too. So everything you need to know about micro-influencers. You have to start with, so first of all, what is a micro-influencer? A micro-influencer is someone who has some level of reach that is greater than yours, or maybe just targets a different population and they have kind of a captive audience that you can partner with. So micro-influencer meaning not like a Kim Kardashian or Kanye West with tens of millions of followers. You're really looking for someone who belongs in your community and who aligns with your brand. So you can essentially synergize where they're getting something from you and they're providing you with access to their platform to promote your message. So as Dr. J mentioned, the second masterclass we did was all about brand. And this conversation about micro-influencers, you have to make sure that they're aligned with your brand, because you can very easily get someone who has a huge reach but does not stand for the things that you stand for, and that would actually harm your brand and hurt your ability to grow. So like Dr. J said, at the wrap-up email we'll send a link for all of these worksheets and growth guides, etc., so you can go back and make sure that you're putting those into practice. So let's give an example, okay? We have this imaginary doctor that we came up with. We'll call her Dr. Jones. She's a well-known chiro in her community. And after looking at her EMR, just like Dr. J does, because she knows the metrics matter, she notices that 36% of her athletes are of her patients are former athletes. And in her newsletter, she sent out a brief survey saying, hey, how many of you guys go to the gym at least once a week? Maybe she tied that in with some kind of educational content around COVID and how important it is to stay active. All kinds of ways that you can send out fun surveys that are relevant and applicable to your patients. And actually, it's something we do a lot of Dr. J and I. And even for these master classes, we have surveys too to know how you guys like them, how we can improve, etc. So Dr. Jones, being very smart, she sends out the survey and finds out that 2/3 of all her patients go to the gym at least once a week. So how can a micro-influencer help Dr. Jones grow her practice? The first thing you have to ask yourself is, what kind of safe assumption can I make about my patient population? So I can target people just like them, right? If you have people coming to you and they enjoy your service, chances are people just like them would share that view of your work. So in her case, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? Her patients belong to gyms. 1/3 of them are former athletes. 2/3 of them go to the gym at least once a week. So you start thinking to yourself, okay, if they go to the gym once a week, they must be going to some gym, right? How do I figure out where they're going? And that's really the hard part that we've learned in talking to a lot of you guys is you may get the concept, but when it comes down to actually finding this person in a great sea of millions of people on social media, that's really the hard part. So we're actually going to show you guys a step-by-step method to effectively find people who are aligned with your brand and who will probably be good matches. And then we'll talk a little bit about how to contact them, et cetera, et cetera. So really the three things to keep in mind is someone who contextually aligns with your brand. And that can go back all the way down to your brand color and the energy and vibe in your practice. Again, if your content is all about bright colors and high energy, you don't want to align your brand with someone who posts mostly non-filter black and white pictures. That's obviously just kind of like a gross example, but that's something to keep in mind. You want to make sure that their page aligns with you. Also, someone who shares your brand values. If you're a practice that's always talking about wellness, nutrition, sleep, drinking water, et cetera, you want to find someone who does that, right? Like the way they look, the way they live their lives, these things really matter. You want to find someone who aligns with your values, whatever they may be. And in this case, we're using Dr. Jones' athletic population as an example, but at the end of this, I'm going to give you guys 3 other examples that are completely unrelated to athletics or whatever, so that whatever population you service most, you can find a way to apply this to. And then third one would be someone willing to actually be an influencer for you. And the number one key here is look inside first. So look at your current patients, talk to them, check your patient database to see, is anyone here a good fit for me? They're already a loyal customer. They know me and I know them. Is there anyone here that I can partner with and leverage their influence, their audience to grow my practice? Have conversations with your patients. We always say that to our doctors as well. So here, we're going to walk you through an example. So cute picture there. This is our Kaizo Health news feed. So if I were to go on our Instagram right now, it would look probably something like this. For Dr. J, you can see my cursor, right? Okay, so for those of you that are familiar with Instagram, at the top you have all the stories. Here are just posts, et cetera, et cetera. So let's go from 0 to finding your first micro-influencer. The first step is you have to know where the search button is, and it's right there at the bottom. So some of you probably are already familiar with that if you're familiar with the Instagram platform. Again, if you service a population that is anywhere between 10 years old and mid 40s to late 40s, Instagram is probably the best bang for your buck. Facebook also, but you shift that maybe 10 or 15 years. So 25 to 30 all the way to 60. But at the end of the day, they're owned by the same people. The ads run on both platforms. You can actually find people on Instagram and then target them on Facebook. So this methodology applies to both platforms, whichever one you're most comfortable with, okay? So step 2 is the best kept secret in social media. When you click the search button and you actually click the search bar, you're faced with, you have this option of selecting places. Now, the trick here is you have to actually click the search bar. Otherwise, it will suggest random things based on your search history for you to watch. So you do that, you click places, and then you click near you, right? So that you find people that are geographically relevant to you. The third step is keeping in mind, again, using Dr. Jones' example, keeping in mind her brand and her target audience. Let's find places that are that align with her brand specifically. And I did this example live when I was putting this presentation together, just to show you that it really applies to just about anyone, anywhere. So I did this from my house. I clicked locations near me, and all of these options came up. These are just the top places that people tag themselves in. You see, for Dr. Jones' example, you have right there at the top, CrossFit Burke. I live in a little town called Burke, so this is a quarter mile from my house. But you see, there's even another one, Halo Fitness Experience. So your options, you have hundreds of options, and you can essentially shop around and see what you find. The step 4, so you would click this location. It pops up the page with all the people who have tagged themselves on there. What you want to do is you want to select the top option, because these are the top posts. So the posts that got the most engagement, the most likes, that were also tagged under that location. Now, a pro tip is to also check the recent, because sometimes the top post would be like a year ago, so someone that maybe doesn't go there anymore. But this is all part of your kind of vetting process, and you can make sure that there's someone honking. I don't know if you guys can hear. Your vetting process and making sure that you're finding the perfect fit for you guys. So just for the sake of example, we go top, and we're going to click the very first picture there, okay? Just as an example. So we click that, and you see if they're a good fit for you. So it's going to pull up that picture in this person's profile. So you've now gone from that business profile to this person's profile. So this person, Jen Rod _ You see her here, it's liked by a bunch of people. You can tell that she clearly does CrossFit pretty actively. So what you want to do is you want to vet her. You want to go on her profile. And there's a couple of things that you want to keep track of. First of all is you obviously want to make sure that they have a decent sized following. Not to say that you shouldn't associate yourself with people who don't, but it's important. At the end of the day, this is someone you're going to exchange services in order for them to provide you with their platform. So, okay, 2,000, it's okay. We typically go for people that have 5, 10, 15,000 or more, but this is totally okay. And a lot of times there's people who don't have huge followers on social media, but they have huge followers in real life. And that's very powerful also. So make sure you keep that in mind. If it's someone that has 800 followers, but all their pictures have 30 comments from their buddies, back and forth, chit-chatting, you really want to make sure that you're giving them a close look, because chances are they have a lot more influence in real life than someone with a lot of followers on social media. So you look at their followers first. Another important thing to look at is who they're followed by. And this is where you'll see the people that you follow that also follow them. So again, the people that you follow are probably patients of yours, or maybe other doctors or other companies. So there you start to see if there's some alignment there. And in this case, you also want to look at their actual bio and their profile. Now, it just so happens that this person, who happens to be the first person I clicked on, the first link that showed up, also works for the biggest sports radio station in DC. So it's kind of it's a random little bonus, but it goes to show you how easy it is to just stumble upon just gold, right? In terms of people who align with your brand. And quite frankly, we may have to send this person a message after this presentation.
For sure.
So it really goes to show how easy this is, guys. And again, going back a little, once you find these places and you click on recent, you can also start engaging with people, drop comments and stuff like that. I mean, again, this is like a fitnessy, so this is more for you guys who work more with the fitness population. But let's say you serve a lot of prenatal patients or postpartum patients or military patients, whatever it may be, you can do the same thing, okay? The exact same thing. So there you go, little bonus there. And again, this was completely random. So it really goes to show you there is endless opportunities to grow your practice. Now, the question is, once you find them, what do you do? So I put here 3 examples for you guys of real interactions that we've had in our practice. The first one, Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie is the example we used earlier. She is a patient of ours. She was always a patient of ours. And I noticed that she would always tag us in her stories, and she is a professional athlete. So I reached out to her and I'm like, hey, we're talking internally. We want to do some stuff with IGTV. You're the first person that came to mind. Would you be interested in working with us? And it's if you're sending them a message from your practice page, always put your name there, right? Be like, hey, by the Dr. Jones, I'm the clinic director here, so that they're not talking to a robot, so to speak. And that's some of the biggest feedback that we get, some of the most rewarding feedback that we get, is that our pages feel very real to a lot of our audience. And that's exactly what you want. You want a back and forth on a very human level. So you see here, people are usually thrilled to come in and help out. So this is someone who was already a patient. This Diana, she was actually referred to us by one of her friends who is a patient. They're like, hey, by the way, she is one of the managers at this one local gym. Reach out to her. So I knew that for her, the focus is really in sports and athletics, etc. So this was actually a long time ago, before our rebrand from Sport and Spine Rehab to Kaizo Health. But you see here, the conversation is pretty much the same. We would love to, we were looking for, in this case, it was a female athlete ambassador. We already had 2 guys for that clinic. Let us know if you're interested. And then they come in, you figure out what day works for them. And then the third example is someone is actually really cool, someone who actually reached out to us, right? Like, hey, my name is such and such. I compete in this category. I live here. I'm working towards my pro debut. I want to work with you guys. And then you just break, same thing, very real conversation. Just bring them in and get to know them, okay? Now, what does the end result of all this look like? You have here that same guy who messaged us every week. Among his like workout videos that all his like audience follows him for, he posts a recovery video every week. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with this aspect of Instagram, but you can save your stories under highlights. I actually highly recommend that you guys do this. And what we do on our page is we separate it by modality. So we have one, for instance, for soft tissue, one for adjustment, one for cupping, dry needling, et cetera, so that people can consume that content if they want. That's a pro tip if you guys ever get to that. It's not hugely important, but it's cool that our athlete, for instance, right there on his homepage, he has our brand, and anyone that goes there is going to see that. This is another one of our athletes. She's been with us for 3 years now. Right there on her bio, first thing you see is she's one of our athletes, and here you see, again, once a week, they post a picture of us. And this is something that's important. I know it's actually very close to Dr. J's heart too, is you have to make sure that the expectations are clear between you and the influencer, okay? You will come in once a week to get treated for free. You gotta post once a week and have a contract that's written out that has an end date as well. Because you wanna be able to get out of it quick if you notice that it's not working for you. And you don't want to have that personal conversation. You can say, look, it's just not per the contract. So you want to make sure that you're protected as well, okay? And then lastly, this is just an example. This is another brand ambassador that we have. Just something that he does, he'll make a post about rest and recovery. He's actually a coach here in the DC area. So his audience are mostly youth athletes or other gym goers that are use his like nutrition coaching services, etc. So you know they're a captive audience for him, and whatever recommendation he makes, they're going to take to heart. So we have, and part of his contract is that in the text of his post, he'll talk about our brand also. And the beauty of it is that if you're doing a good job, it comes across very organically. They actually want to do it. And that's another big takeaway from this, guys, is you want to find someone who wants to promote your practice, someone who will tell you, yes, my audience would love to see adjustment videos or soft tissue work videos, rehab videos, whatever you enjoy doing the most, okay? So you can do this with all kinds of audiences. I just kind of alluded this earlier. So if you serve a lot of prenatal, postpartum patients, a lot of moms, look for maternity stores, look for parks in the area. You can search for all of these under places. The same process that we did earlier that I showed you guys, you can do the exact same thing here. You serve a lot of military, look for military bases nearby. Or again, look at gyms. A lot of these guys are in the gym religiously, and you can find them on there tagged under the gym location. Or even if you serve police officers, firemen, nurses, or even doctors, that's another good way to network with the younger doctor crowd, residents, etc. look for medical practices on there, and you can search. You can put like here we would say like Virginia Hospital Center for us in the DC metro area. The people tagging themselves at these places are not the patients who are going in for surgery. It's typically the staff that are on break or whatever, and they follow each other. So those posts will trend to the top, and you can get a hold of them also. Now imagine you find an orthopedist there who's also really into social media, which a lot of the new ones are. And actually, we know a couple here in the DC area who that's pretty much the way they grow their practice. Their orthopedic practice is solely through social media. Plastic surgeons are all over social media as well. That's a great way to do it. You can use the place setting as the geolocator. Okay, so don't take the fitness example as kind of a binary thing. You can definitely replicate this across the board. So now that you have the influence, we have to generate new patients. Now, inevitably, there will be people who will come to your practice just because they're seeing your work on this person's page. That is the number one easy win that you can have. But what are some ways that you can essentially synergize with this exposure and really kind of catalyze the impact that you're having? One of our favorite ones are giveaways, because again, it's all about linking up with people who are going to give you that synergy. So you're going to help them and they're going to help you. So what we like to do is we like to partner with either a local brand or a brand that could be anywhere else, but that are essentially perfectly aligned with what you do. And you can give away their product or their service. If you don't have one that comes to mind immediately, or if you want to kind of keep it in-house for the sake of just brand clarity, you want to push your brand as much as you can, just do a service that's easy for you. And what we like to recommend is cupping, because that is very low risk, very low time commitment. And it's so cool. Like the population loves it. They love to take pictures of their cup marks, etc. But again, if you want to do a free adjustment, if you want to do a free FMS, it really depends on what your practice is, what you enjoy doing, and what's reasonable for you. Okay? So make sure to stay compliant. I think Dr. J may have a word or two on this. We have this conversation all the time. You just have to make sure you're protecting yourself.
Yeah, I mean, compliance is always at the forefront of our minds and our practice. For instance, in Virginia, if you give a service away, you can't charge that patient for 72 hours. And you just need to understand what the federal laws are. You need to understand what your state regs say, because you always want to remain compliant. That's really, really important. So again, if you're giving away products or services, just make sure you understand the regs, because you never want to be in a situation where you're trying to do something good for the community and all of a sudden it turns around and bites you in the butt. So I just wanted to make sure that I put that out there. That's really important.
Great. And so here we have some examples of what this looks like for each one of these. So the first one being a partnership with a business in your community. Actually, this is the message we got last week, I think. This company makes like acupressure mats that people can lay on. And we've heard so many patients asking about this, and there's questions, etc. So this company actually reaches out to us and is like, hey, would you be interested in doing a giveaway for us? To us, it's kind of no skin off our backs. I mean, they're giving us a product that we can then do a giveaway and send out a survey and get feedback from our patients so that we can make educated decisions as to what our patients actually think about this. And it's great because once we do the giveaway, this company is going to also repost all of that stuff. So their entire audience is going to be exposed to our brand as well. So you see how easy this is, and this happens all the time. And then the other one would be a service giveaway. So we just did this one, I want to say last Friday, or the May 29th, 2 Fridays ago. And it's a cupping giveaway. And what we tell people is, and you see we got, I know it's a little faded there, but 430 entries. So we tell people, tag a friend and you both have to follow the page. And then we'll randomize a selection of a winner there. And you can just Google Instagram giveaway random winner, and it will give you like 10 websites that will do this for you. So it's very easy to do. You don't have to worry about that. But again, this is great because it's $0 for us to make this post. And then all of a sudden you have 430 people who are coming to see your content. Admittedly, maybe a third of those are new people, but that's over 100 people that normally would have never come across your brand for free like that instantly. Now, but I hate giving stuff away, right? We hear this
We
all.
know we hate giving stuff
We
away.
do too. We do too. Trust me. And that's why you have to be smart about what you're giving away, right? Don't do a giveaway of lifetime free service. That's not sustainable. So you have to think again. For us, we found that cupping is probably the easiest way to go about it. Some doctors, when they get their dry needling certifications, they kind of want to get the word out. So we've done some of those before. But cupping is kind of the perfect marriage between public appeal and as like it's cool, and it's also easy for us and our staff to do. So if this is the mentality that you have going into it, just keep in mind this. Of our last 5 cupping giveaways, 4 people, 80% of them became long-term paying patients. They came several times after that for billable services essentially, and they were not free, and they paid it whether with insurance or cash or whatever. And all 5 of them posted about it on their social media. So again, it's 5-10 minutes of our time. It's going to get posted to however many hundreds or thousands of followers that they have. And again, it's free exposure. So you're winning twice, at least twice, 3 times if they come back as a patient. Okay, so I know that was a lot to digest. And again, if you guys have questions, we'll address all of those at the end. And if you need to get a hold of us, you can always just reach out, shoot us an email, and we'll help you out. So the third strategy, you hear a lot about live streams. But chances are, if you've done a live stream, you probably didn't get a whole lot of traction with it. You did it, you went live on the Facebook or Instagram, and it might have been okay, but I would be willing to bet that you didn't have 15 new patients from your 10 minutes of going live. So how can you use a micro-influencer to help you gain some traction and again, catalyze the experience as a whole, and ideally make it so that you don't even have to do any of the work, right? So we use this term to Kaizenovate things. So here's how you can Kaizenovate your live streams. This is something we did a lot during the COVID pandemic because we didn't have as much time in the clinic with people, and there's social distancing. You can't really have people coming together to do stuff, etc. It was very like bare bones. So you had to get creative. So what we did is we had our influencers doing something on our page or doing a dual live, which here's a picture of what that would look like, where it's essentially no work for us to do, and it's highly appealing to their audience. Now, why are live streams so important is because the live stream is the only way on social media platforms where you can, for free, send out a notification to everyone who follows you. So you may have noticed this, if you're on Facebook or on Instagram and someone you follow or one of your friends goes online, you get a little notification at the top. Dr. Jay Greenstein is going live. Do you want to join? It is the only way. You can post, you can send whatever, is the only way to get a notification. What happens when you go live with somebody else is all of your audience gets a notification and all of their audience gets a notification. So chances are most of your guys' pages on social media will have anywhere between 20 and we'll say a couple hundred followers, maybe a little over 1,000 if you're doing a really great job. Your influencer may have 15,000. Think about that. It's free advertising to 15,000 people who actually care and trust this person. So you really want to make sure that you're doing that. As an example, you don't even have to be an athletic person to follow Dr. Jones' example, right? You can have your influencer do a workout for you on your page. You give them the login access and they can go and host it, or you can host it and invite them to it, just like this guy is doing in the video, and then they're doing it too, and you're doing it together. So through the COVID pandemic, we did one of these every day. We would go live every day at noon, and one of our personal trainers would go live with one of our micro influencers, and it was a different one each day. So we're hitting a different audience each day. And it takes very little planning because, I mean, they're on their phones all the time anyway. So definitely something to keep in mind if going live is of interest to you. So enough about influencers. Dr. Jones has figured it out, okay? She wants to now reap the rewards of her marketing prowess and make sure that all of this effort is actually generating money for her and how she can actually manage all of that. So now we're going to marry this concept with all the things that Dr. J just talked about in terms of metrics that really matter, okay? So calculating marketing ROI. the first thing that you have to do, mostly to protect yourself and your own revenue and your own budget, is you have to understand the difference between a marketing budget or marketing spend and an ad slash promo budget or ad slash promo spend, right? Whether it's paid ads or you're buying an ad on a magazine or whatever it may be, you have to be able to understand the difference between those, because when you're doing the calculation, you literally cannot afford to be wrong. So the number one mistakes that Kairos, and not just Kairos, but I think anyone out there makes, and you've probably heard this yourself, is a marketer will tell you, we can get you a 10x return on your investment. What do they really mean when they say that? What they mean is that's how much they will get, that's the return that you'll get on the amount of money you're spending on your ads. 99.9% of the time doesn't even include their own consulting fee. And we've worked with all kinds of different people. Dr. J and I were just talking this morning about a recent, maybe you can just tell the story.
Yeah, I mean, this happens all the time. People reach out to us, they find us online, they realize we've got a pretty substantial practice and they're seeing dollar signs. And when they make a pitch, you know, they'll say, yeah, we'll get you a 10x, and this is 10x is so common, right? We're going to get you 10x return on your investment. And when you start to break down the numbers, like, okay, well, how does the pricing actually work? You know, you're spending money on the actual ad spend. And as Lucas said, you're also spending money on the consulting piece. And the next thing you know, you're really not getting a 10x return. And so like asking the right questions, like exactly how much money will I be spending and on what, is critically important to make sure that you know exactly what you're getting into. Because there's all kinds of flashy stuff going on right now. I'm seeing it online. These ads are popping up in my feed. And you just have to be very careful that you understand what you're actually spending your money on and what that actual return is going to be.
Exactly. And the other side of that coin is, I see these ads on my Instagram feed all the time, is chiropractor makes 30,000 in his first month using our method. Okay, that's fine. 30,000 is a lot of money. I think we can all agree on that. But did he spend 12,000 on ads and 5,000 on consulting? Then is that really worth, is the juice really worth the squeeze there? So you have to be mindful of that. And like Dr. J said, asking the right questions is very, very important. So how do you actually calculate your return on your marketing spend? Is you have to shift the dynamic a little bit. And instead of thinking of ROI, you have to think of RAS. So the return on your ad spend, which is the revenue from your ads, meaning all the people who come in saying, hey, I saw you on Instagram, Facebook, Google, whatever other ad platform that you use. So very simple calculation, revenue that you made from ads versus ad spend. So if you put in $1,000 and you got 10,000, there's your 10x return. Now that's simple enough, but that's only one part of the equation. Your actual ROI is calculating for all marketing revenue divided by your ad spend, your platform overhead cost, and your payroll cost. So payroll is whether you have a marketer in-house or you have a consultant, you have to factor that in as well. Now, ad spend is, like we've been saying, is the total amount of money you spend to push out ads or to buy keywords on Google. So it's very easy to calculate. Most of these platforms will be very transparent, like Facebook Ad Manager. It will tell you exactly how much you're spending. Your platform overhead is something that a lot of chiros overlook a lot of times. And that's really the cost for the software that you're using. So say MailChimp or Yelp or Zapier or whatever other, there's hundreds of these, and some of you probably don't use any of them, and that's okay, good for you, frankly. But they'll be very impactful once you're able to, because that's another thing you have to be careful about, is not signing up for services that you don't absolutely need. And in today's day and age, most of these platforms do a lot of different things, so you can keep it kind of in-house. Like MailChimp pushes out Facebook ads if you wanted it to. So something to keep in mind, okay? But make sure that you're factoring in your platform overhead. And your payroll, again, like we were just talking about the whole 10x conversation, make sure that your consulting fees or your in-house marketing fees are also accounted when you're doing these calculations, okay? So how do you actually go about this? The step one is you have to keep track of everything. It goes back to those dials Dr. J was showing. That's one view that we have of it by category. We also love to use pie charts and all kinds of way of analyzing data. But you notice in those those dials that Dr. J was showing you, it was all categorized under website. And that is kind of the overarching, all digital platforms, all there, the total number of new patients coming from there. What we also do is we take that and we build onto it and we say, okay, are they coming from our actual website? Are they coming from a provider website like Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, some kind of directory search? Or are they coming from social media? And as you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, if social media, then which social media? If website, then is it a direct hit on my website? Is it a Google thing, et cetera? So you have to take it a step further and keep track of all of these. So this is something we use Salesforce just by the size of our practice. We kind of need it to manage all this data. But again, you have to make sure that you're categorizing and then identifying each line here is a new patient. If I had included everything else, you would see their names, et cetera, et cetera. But this is very important. Keep track of everything. And these are metrics that truly, truly matter.
Can I just say something really quick related to that, Lucas? You know, you don't need Salesforce in order to be able to keep track of this. This can be done on an Excel spreadsheet. And it's like just having your front SCA who's doing the registration or printing maybe a new patient report, and you have a referred by section so that you know where these people are coming from. And then just you can use an Excel spreadsheet to look at your data and figure out where your new patients are coming from, and then tie that back to the ad spend. So I just want everyone to understand, just because you don't have Salesforce doesn't mean you can't do this.
Right, and the only reason we have Salesforce is because we have multiple locations with different referral sources, et cetera, et cetera. But guess what? Our Salesforce is populated by spreadsheets. So I'm importing spreadsheets into Salesforce, and it's just making a pretty graphic for us. But at the end of the day, all of this information is first and foremost on a spreadsheet. So you keep track of everything, and then you refer back to your EMR for your financials. Of course, there's different EMRs, et cetera, but I'm pretty confident that all of them will be able to tell you some variation of this, of the referral source versus how many visits on average they come, your billings per visit, units, et cetera, et cetera.
I just want to say something really quick about this too, Lucas, because this is really important. You know, a lot of people are using practice management systems that may be disjointed from their EHR, or they're using practice management systems where the reporting is terrible. Like, companies, practices that can grow exponentially are information enabled. You know, I used Future Health for a long time. Steve Krause was a good friend of mine. Aaron Reynolds, good friend of mine. Loved using them. But when Genesis came along and I saw the reporting capabilities, I basically had to break up with two of my really good friends and be like, fellas, I'm really sorry, but I got a jet because this other thing over here is infinitely better in terms of reporting, and the data that we can get from our EHR system that allows Lucas to upload that information into Salesforce and then do further analysis is game changing. So you may feel comfortable in your system, you may like it, it may do the job, but if you can't run reports to really get down into, you know, where your referral sources are coming from and then what your revenues look like for each of those referral sources, you may want to consider making a change.
Couldn't have said it better. And I think here we'll touch a little bit on that. It's very important to keep in mind that what you measure, you manage. And especially when it comes to the patient acquisition, there's a lot of gray areas. So again, we're talking about newsletters and returning patients, right? Those are probably some of the hardest questions to answer. So a returning patient that saw your email coming in, are you going to count the revenue generated from them as a marketing win, or is that just a random person who had been in your practice before? I would argue that if they haven't been in your practice in over a year and then they see your email and come in, you probably need to pat yourself in the back and say, you know what, my MailChimp campaign is doing its job. And to Dr. J's point earlier, we've mapped all of this out. We've created spreadsheets that have open rates, clicks, new patient or returning patient, or we call it reactivation. And we can accurately predict, not for any individual point, but a line of best fit of this is what we can expect over a period of time of patients that will be generated from our email. So then we can start A/B testing to see, okay, if we do this, our average is about 2 per week per email. So if we can do an A/B test to say, okay, now we're getting to 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, you know you're going in the right direction. So you have to know this, and it can sound overwhelming, but it's literally as simple as a spreadsheet with the date your email went out, the number of people who open, and all of these softwares will tell you that very simply, like MailChimp, you can just scroll over and it will tell you the number. So it's all about just keeping track and being disciplined and judicious about that. And the last thing that I'll say about this is also whenever people say, I found you online, right? That's the whole point. That answer is from this, that answer is no longer good enough. Maybe 10 years ago it was, but the moment that you're spending money on your digital marketing or spending time, which is money, right? Effort in your digital marketing, you want to know, oh, I found you on social media. Okay, which social media? Did you find me on YouTube? Did you find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram? So that if you know that 80% of your social media patients are coming from Instagram, you can tell your ad manager to push ads only on Instagram, and then you get a much better return on your investment with that. And what I think the next masterclass or the one after that, we'll talk specifically about Facebook ads and how to get the most bang for your buck. So stay tuned for that. Easy steps to get started, guys. So there's a lot of information, right? The first thing you need to do is identify the key leading and lagging metrics in your practice that are driving the results. Like Dr. J said, lagging metrics are anything that are after the fact, so the number of patients that you got, and leading metrics are the things that are actually causing this acquisition. So the number of, I guess, Google review, right? Could be that, the number of posts that you're making, the number of interactions you're having, and same with your physicians and attorney accounts as well as the same thing. You're just translating that concept to the digital realm. Find your first influencer, bring them to your practice, get to know their values. And it's okay if it takes more than one. It's okay if you meet them and you don't like them, okay? Like, it's totally okay. I've met dozens of these influencers in real life. Very rarely are they in real life anything like they are in social media. So definitely take it with a grain of salt and just kind of, be patient in finding the perfect fit for you. Then give yourself 30 days, do all these things right, and then go back, plug in the numbers and calculate your ROI, and chances are you'll be very pleased with what you find. So, and you're not alone. You can always reach out to us and we're here to help. We'd love to hear from you. There's our email. We'll get back to you right away if you shoot us an email. And you can access this and all the other master classes in our blog. We'll send you guys a link. And we want to make sure that we now open up and answer any questions that you guys may have. And so go ahead. I saw some people had their hands up, or okay, so if you do have any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat now. We have one question here in the Q&A.
Hey, Lucas.
Yes.
Hey, Lucas, I'd like to try something. Suzanne, we can allow her to talk, so I think it'd be fun just to let people talk.
Yeah,
okay, Suzanne. Suzanne, let me unmute you. Hold on. Lucas, can you try unmuting her? It's not working for me.
Yes.
Suzanne, there you go.
There you go.
There we go, Suzanne.
Thank you very much for the information. I'm looking forward to seeing what I find through the Instagram options that you gave. That's one of my challenges. I'd like to find like-minded people that we could mutually share and encourage one another and be able to help one another with our business. It's definitely good, you said, to have a contract, and I would further have to figure that out. But the first step is just to find potentially the people that you want to further have conversations with. And that was something I wasn't sure how to go about.
Right. So in that case, it can be, and it can even be other business partners, right? People to have conversations with, like-minded people. So what I would recommend is use the places feature like we showed you, and really shop around. I say this all the time to our marketing team here. Time spent on social media is not time wasted anymore, right? I mean, if you're on your social media looking at memes of like cats falling into a pool or something, like, yeah, maybe. But if you're there actually like doing market research and looking at people around you, that's definitely time well spent. So for instance, for you, if you're looking, so what kind of patient population do you work with mostly, or would like to focus on mostly?
Well, I'm a chiropractic practice and a nutritional practice.
Okay.
So as far as nutrition, most likely they're going to start because they have a problem that they haven't figured out how to handle, and it's not showing up on normal tests.
Okay, so
And then
that's
my next
actually a really easy one. What you can do to find influencers in that realm is I would search for places like Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, any kind of, look up, Google in your area, like vegan restaurants or farm to table restaurants, things like that. Influencers love to tag themselves in these like trendy places, and that's how you can find them. So nutrition is definitely, it's probably one of the easiest ones because that's where a lot of these coaches and nutritionists, that's how they're making their living, is specifically on social media. That's how they're finding other like-minded people just like yourself. And they're firm believers in non-pharmacological, non-surgical approaches to treating conditions. So it's really a win-win. That's probably the best example of someone that you can find to line your practice with.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Thanks, Suzanne.
So if anyone else has questions, just raise your hands. We'll answer some of these that we got in the Q&A. So one of them is, how do we score the digital readiness score sheet? I'd like to see how I did. When you download it and you click the check boxes and you scroll down all the way at the bottom, it will tell you your score. And then it also has the, I guess, the score blocks. So where you fit into each one of the rankings that we have. We have some, so I hope that answer, if that's not working for you for whatever reason, it should with any kind of or PDF opener, even if it's Internet Explorer. If that doesn't work for you, just shoot us an email, we'll fix it for you. Oh yeah, if you print it, it won't work because we coded it so that it's automatically scoring it for you. What's a good budget for a growing practice? Now that's a great one, and the answer to that is, of course, it depends, and it really depends on what your goal is. I would say the beauty of pushing out ads is that the ads get smarter as you go. It learns what kind of people are likely to consume or not consume from you. So I think starting with a budget of say $10 a day is probably best case scenario. You can even do $5 a day. I really wouldn't do anything less than that. And I wouldn't do anything more than $10, frankly, because use that money to essentially buy information. You're giving the ad manager money saying, tell me or show me who are the people most likely to consume from me. So then you're spending not even, or $300 a month if you're running it on the weekends. A lot of people don't. I know we throttle down our ad spend on weekends because we don't have schedulers picking up the phone. So it's not as relevant for us. But that's probably where I would start, $10 a day, not even $300 a month will get you tremendous amount of information. And another thing we'll discuss when we do the masterclass on ad spend specifically is using engagement to drive your ad costs down. So putting out content that people are clicking like on will actually reduce the cost of your ad because you're telling the social media platform, hey, my content is actually relevant, people like it. So if you're a manager of Facebook, for instance, you want people to stay on Facebook. So you want the ads to be good content that people will consume. So that's one of the tricks. And then the other one is doing retargeting campaigns, meaning you're pushing out an ad to anyone who's engaged with your previous ad. And that's one of the cheapest ways to generate new patients. And again, we'll have a whole masterclass based just on this and how to get your guys. A lot of people will promote, oh, I can get your new patient for $100. We convert them for like 13 bucks here. So we can show you exactly how to pull the right levers in order to do that. But we need a whole masterclass dedicated to that. I've probably already talked too much, honestly. Any other question, guys, feel free to send them in. We have one here. How do you find influencers for an older crowd? I treat mostly elderly folks. So what you want to do here is, we talked about this in previous master classes, is you want to make sure that the platform you're reaching them is correct, right? Chances are your elderly population, Medicare population, they're probably not on Instagram, but they may be on Facebook, they may be on email, and even snail mail and things like that. So you want to make sure there's all kinds of companies that will help you geo-target specifically for snail mail, or you can even use the data on your EMR to kind of figure out by zip code if that's what you want to do. And you can do the same thing for emails. For instance, you can get your current list of emails from your EMR and upload that into Facebook Ads Manager and create an audience that's based on just those emails. So you're not telling Facebook the name of people, but Facebook knows because they know everything about you, and they will find people that are most similar to those people. So there's lots of tools that you can use to reach that audience and then see kind of who stands out. But then again, using locations that are most applicable to them. So for instance, if you cater to a lot of well-off elderly people, you want to look at country clubs and things like that, okay? So, and you can even, I mean, there's countless ways you can do about this, but just go under your near me, under places, and just kind of browse around and see, okay, this place might work, this place might work, and just kind of marry the two that way. Okay, Dr. Bates, that question is amazing. It's an amazing question. So, suggestions on producing ads that follow Facebook guideline, not mentioning pain, etc. for chiropractic. Speaking of Dr. Matt Loop, we have had dozens of hours worth of conversations with him specifically on this, because it really is a little bit of a dance between you and the software, the robots that are reading your ads and engaging whether they're appropriate or not. So the number one thing, and again, we'll go into super depth about this in the upcoming masterclass. The number one thing is you never want to make your ad never wants to be read in a way that could be specific to me, meaning it can never be, do you have pain, right? Or are you tired of pain? But if you put something along the lines of, it's time to leave those nagging pains in the past, I guarantee you that gets approved. So you have to talk about it in kind of general statements, and that way it won't get flagged. Even if it does get flagged, another pro tip is always appeal it. Because when you appeal it, you first of all automatically have like an 80% chance of them just pushing it through. But if not, you'll get a hold of a Facebook rep that you can befriend, and that becomes your contact over at Facebook whenever you have any problem, any issue. You don't even go through the helpline, you go straight to them and they can push your ads for you. Obviously, as long as you're not like, hey, do you have back pain? Because they'll never allow that. But that's something to keep in mind. And also keep in mind if you're creating content with your patients, that they sign a waiver and stuff like that. But that's another beauty of having micro-influencers, is that you own the rights to their image from the initial contract that you signed with them. So I hope that clarifies, but again, just stay tuned and we'll go into really in depth. And I'll give you guys dozens of examples of copy that we use that gets approved and that works. I'll just pull like our top 5 ads ever and then show you guys exactly what those say. Any other questions? Cool. So housekeeping items here. Our course is ready. Dr. J's course. Do you want to talk about this? I know you're super excited.
I mean, I'm incredibly excited. It was months and, well, really years in the making, but it took months to tape and edit. But I created a course called the Chiropractic Entrepreneur Framework, and it's really all about helping chiropractors go from just having a practice to actually being an entrepreneur. And what an entrepreneur means to me is freedom, the ability to do what we want when we want to do it. And it is a 20 video course. It goes through everything from leadership to culture to key performance indicators, metrics, process, operational problem solving, and more. And it's been a dream of mine to have an online course. A little scary, but it got done, and we will send you guys not only the link, but we're going to significantly discount it for folks that are on this webinar. And just, you know, you guys, and it's free for the first 5 days. So if you don't like it, you can drop out. So it's like money back guarantee. But I'm super excited, and the feedback that I've gotten from some folks who have taken the course has been awesome. So I'm excited for you. If you decide that you want to take it, please feel free to give me feedback. If you need help in any way, shape, or form, just reach out to me.
Exactly. And I can say that he's been working on this for a long time, and it's awesome. So make sure to check it out. And for those of you guys who watched the masterclass and maybe you just need a little more, you need a little more in-depth, you need maybe some hand-holding, you need us to show you exactly how to do this click by click, we do offer some marketing consulting. First 15 minutes are free, just a quick conversation, a little audit. So just shoot us an email. We can definitely set you up. Again, it's customer support at kaizennovate.com. Any feedback, send it to us. And we'll send you an email today with all of these resources, all of these free downloads, as well as the video of the masterclass so you can rewatch it on your own time if you want. Okay, so thank you.
Hey, Lucas,
guys so much.
I have one more thing, Lucas. So a very good friend of ours, Dr. Dana Mackison, is on this webinar, and I've got to give Dana a shout out because it was his birthday on Saturday. Now, many of you don't know, but every time we're celebrating or out with Dana, it's always his birthday. So he always gets some sort of a cake, and he never knows why, but it's not even his birthday, and we just, you know, tell the waitress it's his birthday. It was actually his birthday, and Dana, I'm so sorry. I even had on my task list to call you, and I didn't, but I will reach out to you. We will connect. Happy birthday, brother. Love you. Hope you had a great day, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, everyone. Any questions, let us know, and we'll see you 4 weeks from today for the next one.
Bye, everybody.